Hey, today I'm going to share how to beat the blahs. And when I say blahs, I really mean anything on that spectrum between like just dialing it in all the way to total burnout. I'm going to throw my hands up and I'm just going to give up on everything, right? So anything in there, I'm calling that the blahs. And I recently went through it myself. So I figured what a perfect opportunity for me while it's all fresh in my mind. And I was able to move through it so quickly because of the total blessing of my performance coaching background. But I thought, what a perfect opportunity while it's still fresh to share these tools with you. And then hopefully you can also move through it more quickly when it happens, because it will inevitably happen. So I'd been away on this trip and it was supposed to be a working trip, but unfortunately, because of several different things, but one of them being the internet in the hotel was kind of on the fritz, I ended up having a lot of downtime that I wasn't expecting, but was really, really nice for me. And when I came back here, just the contrast of, working so hard, and it's not easy to be a working mom, but the contrast of how I was, relaxing over there and what I'm living, like what my reality has been living now, was so stark that it just really made me feel blah. Don't you love that wonderful word? It really made me feel blah. And it made me start, yeah, I began to question everything, which is something that a lot of us do. We immediately start thinking, am I going down, is this worth it? Am I just being lazy? Am I just barking up the wrong tree? Maybe I'm going down the wrong path. Let me just question everything about it. So let me share these tools with you. Because we all start out, we're all so positive when we're starting a project or we're starting a certain phase of our project. We feel so motivated. We have all this positive thinking, and then over time it just declines, or we feel discouraged, especially if we're not getting results. And that is always why I recommend making money first. That's why that's so important. It's because of the performance coaching background. That's the number one thing I wanted to bring up about motivation, is that motivation is directly tied to your belief in success. So if you're feeling demotivated, then you really want to take a second and ask yourself, do I really believe that I'm going to succeed at this? What is getting in my way? Is there something, some other story, some other belief? And the problem is you really need to see it with your own eyes, right? I often say it's like salespeople. If salespeople are promised a bonus if they make their quota, but they know that they haven't gotten that promised bonus in the past, they're not going to be motivated to make those numbers. So you need to see it. You need to see the proof with your own eyes. And if you're not, then you need to do something to actually, start seeing those kind of results. But I'm not going to lie, even if you are making money in your business, then these kind of days or weeks or periods can still come up when you do feel really demotivated. And I'll talk in a second about why that is. But basically, new devil or new level, new devil, right? Here's the number two thing about motivation. It's human nature. It's total human nature to feel demotivated. And I am seeing this play out in front of me in real time with my baby, Dylan, because he will struggle and strive and work so hard for something, and he'll get there and there'll just be this like jubilation. He'll be so happy. And then it's over. He's like, yeah, on to the next thing. And it's amazing, knowing what I know theoretically, to actually see it in another human in this way, how quickly as humans we become like, we want the newer, the better, the next thing. And just to, when that happens to you, then, because it will, given the same set of stimuli, your motivation or your interest will decline over time. That's just human nature. And it's a survival tactic. It served us really, really well to keep us always striving. However, it's something that can be overcome. And so we do this all the time. We overcome kind of our wiring, our coding, right? If not, there would be no such thing as monogamy. So we can do it. And this is just one of the things where when it happens to you and you start feeling that you are really focusing more on the negative, like all the things you haven't accomplished rather than the things you have accomplished, just know that they're just thoughts and they're just emotions, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that it's your truth. So this is what I meant about kind of going down the rabbit hole about what does this mean? If I'm feeling demotivated in my business, what is that telling me? Well, sometimes as you're working all that out, what really is important is that you just say they're just thoughts and emotions, and you just breathe and you just take the next step. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. This is so critical because you know what? The truth will always be revealed over time. If you're worried, am I really lazy? That's going to be revealed over time if you're really lazy. Or if you are, heading down the wrong path with your business, that will surface. You'll keep getting more and more evidence about that, and you'll know the truth. So at this particular moment in time, especially when you're feeling low vibe and you're feeling demotivated, you don't have to make a decision about the truth right at this minute, right? What really matters is who you are. It goes back to that identity, right? How you choose to behave. And so just keep taking that one step, that next step, keep going day by day by day. And you know what? It's fine if you scale back, quality over quantity, but just keep going knowing that it's human nature. And then the third thing is that motivation comes from within. So often we say things like, oh, I got so motivated by that speaker. I got so motivated by that book. But if you actually look up the definition of motivation, nothing from the external world can motivate you. It can inspire you, but motivation, like it only comes from within. And really, it's your job to figure out what motivates you. And I would argue that's one of the most important things that you can learn in your life in terms of self-knowledge, is to really figure out what motivates you. And even if you go to a coach to figure that out, that's fine, because you're still the one that made it happen by hiring that coach. So it's your job to really figure out what motivates you. And that's why earlier when I talked about how even if you are making money in your business, you can still get demotivated, it's because money isn't necessarily the biggest motivator for a lot of us. It's not for me and basically everyone I work with. Money is not the biggest motivation. Now, in the very beginning, yes, for sure, it's your first priority because you want to know that that business will work. But over time, you're starting to ask yourself other things like, will this business work for me? Will it allow the lifestyle that I really want? Will it jive with the kind of life that I want to create? Will I be working with the kind of people that I really want and need to be working with? Like there's so many other layers to the onion. There's so many other levels, like I said, new level, new devil. And so that's when you really need to, you can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to run out and make some sales and that'll make me feel better. Not necessarily. What makes you feel better? What motivates you? Um, Checking my notes here. Yes. So I pretty much got everything. Yay. So those are the three things. I'll recap really quickly. And next week, I'm going to go into like the practical hacks that you can do for your brain, some really practical tips to keep your motivation going. And I'll also talk through how I personally worked through it last week to get my motivation back up and feel fired up again and feel excited about what I'm doing. Quickly to go through those steps again, or those big things you really need to understand about motivation before you try and implement these hacks. That's why I did it in this order. But the number one thing, of course, is that motivation is completely tied to your belief in success. Number two is that it's absolute human nature. And there's a reason why we're wired that way, but that is also something that we can overcome or we can learn to mitigate. And number three is that motivation comes from within. It is on us to figure out our motivators and to start understanding our cycles of like the ebb and flow of motivation and enthusiasm and inspiration, and to really craft that in a way that allows us to perform at our best so that we can do the amazing things that we are positioned to do, that we're brought here to do, that we can do, that we have the potential to do. Because if we're not performing at our best, we're only giving, especially in business here, when we're serving so many people, we're only giving people a percentage of what we have. And no one wants to perform at that level. We all want to give 100%. I hope that was helpful. Shoot me a note if you have any questions, any comments, leave them here. I'll respond back. I'm always available. And I wish you a wonderful, motivated, exciting rest of your week.